Friends, in just a minute, we always like to end this by just blessing you and praying for you as you leave here today. And we're going to do that in just a moment. We're going to remember our baptisms. We're going to have pastors up here just to pray for you. But I always like to end this time by just speaking to pastors and leaders in churches because I know that the work we do is hard. We've talked about some of the challenges. We've talked a lot about the opportunities. I really appreciated, by the way, Chris's message just now, Gail's message a little earlier. For two completely different reasons, I really appreciate the both of them and the words that they shared. But I was thinking, I was back there thinking, um, it is easy to. Hi, Jessica. You could come on, come on up. Yeah, you want to put that in the middle? That's good. Thanks. Perfect. Thank you. So I was thinking it is easy to slip into that kind of discouraging space in church. It can be easy to adopt that posture of kind of learned helplessness, especially the longer you do this work. Some of you have been doing this work longer than others. And I know that it's incredibly difficult work that you do. And a few years ago, I did something that I had never done in my ministry. It was a mistake to not do it, but I took finally my first sabbatical that I'd ever taken. It was 21 years it took me to do this, and I had a extended period of time that I got to be away, and I learned a lot over that time. One of the surprising things to me was the number of clergy colleagues that texted me, "Are you okay?" you know, "Are you burned out?" One person was like, "Did you enter into a recovery treatment center?" I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but none of those things were true about me. I wasn't burned out. I didn't enter into a treatment center. Are you gonna quit? I mean, just the number of people who saw like stepping back, taking time to just sort of focus so that I can continue to do this work well, saw that as like a sign something must be really wrong. And I thought to myself, this is not good. This is not good that as clergy or as church leaders, we see sort of thinking about how we lead and how we're able to lead as a sign of that something's wrong instead of something being right. And I just wanted to read a scripture. I wanted to reflect on just a couple things before I invite you forward and we pray for you. And these were things, myths that I had to overcome. I just got back from Egypt a week ago. I don't know how many of you know that. I led a group of 54 people to retrace the footsteps of Moses in the Exodus story, which, by the way, gave me a whole new appreciation for Moses doing this for 40 years with 650,000 men. You add in women and children and like a million people. I just had 54 for 1 week in, for the most part, air conditioned hotels, and it was hard enough. Um, But it just gave me some time to reflect and to remember and to read a lot about Moses, and I wanted to read to you a passage, that has been really important for me, and I just wanna point out a few things about it because I love this passage actually kinda helped change the way that I work. It exposed several myths that I think I was holding on to, and I just wanna read it to you. A lot of you'll know this passage. It's Moses. He's been leading the people for a while. He's getting worn out. He's on the edge of what we might call burnout. And Jethro, his father-in-law, who everyone loves to receive advice from, right? Your father-in-law, uh, gives him some advice. Let me read it to you. It says, "The next day Moses sat as a judge for the people while the people stood around Moses from morning until evening. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that he was doing for the people, he said, 'What's this that you're doing for the people? Why do you sit alone while all the people are standing around you from morning until evening?' And Moses said to his father-in-law, 'Because the people come to me to inquire of God. When a conflict arises between them, they come to me, and I judge between the two of them. I also teach them God's regulation and instruction.' Moses' father-in-law said to him, 'What you are doing isn't good. You'll end up totally wearing yourself out. Both you and these people who are with you, the work is too difficult for you. You can't do it alone. Now listen to me, and let me give you some advice. And may God be with you. Your role should be to represent the people before God. You should bring their disputes before God yourself, explain the regulations and instructions to them, let them know the way they're supposed to go and the things they're supposed to do. But you should also look among all the people for capable persons who respect God. They should be trustworthy, not corrupt. See, uh, Set these persons over the people as officers of groups of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. It reminds me of your talk, Gail, if she's still in here. Let them sit as judges for the people at all times. They should bring every major dispute to you, but they should decide all the other minor cases themselves. This will be much easier for you. They'll share your load. If you do this and God directs you, then you will be able to endure, and all these people will be able to go back to their homes much happier. Moses listened to his father in law's suggestions and did everything that he had said. All right, I love that story. That this story changed my life. I mean, I had read it before, but reading it during my time away, I was reminded of it again last week as I was reading it. And the story for me, at least, exposed to some myths that I was working with. I'm just going to share some of these myths that this story has dealt with for me, in the hopes that they might mean something to you as you leave here today. The first myth was exposed by this story for me, at least, is the myth that this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do. One of the first and I think most dangerous myths I was carrying around with me is this mindset of like, this is just what I have to do. Um, a few years ago, I was talking to a group of younger clergy in Arkansas, and we were talking about generosity, and we had a great day. And at the end, they just wanted to do like an open Q&A about anything and everything. And so they just started asking me a bunch of questions. We got into sermon writing, and they were every single person in the group. How do we get ahead in sermon writing? Like we are writing sermons Saturday night. You know, what do you do for sermon writing? And I would explain what I do, and immediately I'd explain what I do, and they would push back and say, well, there's no way I can do that. I would give a suggestion. They would come back with, I can't do that. I would give another suggestion. They'd come back and say, but you don't understand. I can't do that. And I said, well, let me just stop. You tell me what you do. Just tell me what your week looks like. And they explained their week to me. And at the end, they just said, you don't understand. Like, this is what we have to do. And I, in love, because we all were getting along really well, I said, I don't know how to help you unless you first recognize that the church will take everything that you have to give. And if you don't shift your mindset from this is what I have to do to this is what I choose to do, then this work is going to sink you. We see this in Moses. He's questioned by Jethro. Jethro says, why are you doing things the way that you're doing them? And immediately Moses responds. He says to his father in law, because the people come to me to inquire of God. When a conflict arises between them, they come to me and I judge between the two of them. I also teach them God's regulations and instructions. I can just hear Moses saying, Jethro, you don't understand what position I'm in and what I have to do and what my context is like. You don't understand the lack of help that I have and what I'm responsible for and all the things that the church expects of me and the way that they want me to visit shut-ins and go to every meeting and be in the church office from 8 in the morning to 5 at night. You don't understand all the things that I have to do. And the truth is, like, I sympathize with Moses. You sympathize with Moses. There are 60 hours of stuff in a week to do before you can ever get to the sermon. And that's just the nature of ministry. But I also know this, and it's a really hard truth, that no one was ever going to protect my schedule. No one was going to look out for my family. No one was going to guard me from overworking. No one was going to create a healthy rhythm of life for me except me. And so it took me finally deciding that I'm the only one who has control over these things that I do. I had to shift my thinking from this is what I have to do to this is what I choose to do. And friends, that shift in thinking changed my life. It changed my ministry to recognize that even on those weeks that I have a lot that I feel like I have to do, I remember in my mind, like, this is what I'm choosing to do. This is what I'm choosing to do. And so it was a step towards just taking control over work that will take control of you. The second myth that this uncovered for me was this myth that I'll get help if I need it. I'll get help if I need it. Let me explain what I mean. Years ago, I was speaking at a church planting seminar. So everybody there wanted to start a church, plant a church, and I was there talking about planting churches. And again, the Q&A. A church planting couple that was sitting like right here. So I'm just going to look at you for a second, Candace, because that's where they were sitting. They raised their hand. They said, we're a couple, we're getting ready to plant a church, we're excited about this work. What advice would you give us as we begin this? And I just said, like, maybe a little too fast. I said, get a therapist. That was my advice. And I talked about, the importance of, I think this about any pastor, but certainly if you're planting a church, get a therapist. If I was planting it with my spouse, I would get 3 therapists, I think. I mean, one for her, one for me, one for us together. I mean, get a therapist. And anyway, I thought it was pretty good advice. And then afterwards, this couple came up and they were really mad at me. And they said to me, "Why would you assume that our marriage is bad? Like, what would cause you to say that to us?" Their assumption was that I said it to them because I thought something was wrong with them. I had to explain to them that getting a therapist isn't something you do when your relationship's in trouble. It's something that you do so that your relationship doesn't get into trouble. And I think a lot of us in ministry, we have this assumption that, you know what, I'm going to do this. If I need help, I'll get it. But that the baseline is I'm supposed to be able to do this myself. I mean, Moses was the same way. His assumption as a leader, and we could see it in that passage I just read, is like, I'm a leader, so I'm supposed to be able to handle all this stuff. I'm supposed to be able to do all this stuff. I'm the pastor. I've been called to this. This is my job. I'm supposed to be able to do all these things for all these people in all these ways that they expect. And I love what Jethro says. Jethro looks at this and he hears Moses' explanation and he says such a simple sentence. Verse 17, he just says, "What you are doing isn't good." Friends, if that's your mindset, if you're trying to do it alone, if you think that it's your responsibility because you're the pastor to do all of these things, then I'd just say the same thing that Jethro said to Moses. What you are doing isn't good, and it's not going to work. And instead, Scripture reminds us over and over and over again that we don't have to do this work alone. We're not supposed to do this work alone. That God puts other people, puts resources into our path, and it's up to us to take advantage of those resources, to use them, to seek help. So the mindset shift for me was, instead of seeking help if you need it, seek help because you need it. It was just one word, but it meant the world to me. Instead of seeking help if you need it, instead of waiting until you're in a tough spot, seek help right now because you need it, because you're not supposed to be able to do this work alone. That's not just true in the church, but in your life. Surround yourself with people that can help you sustain this work for the long haul. Third myth, really quickly, that I had to dispel was that knowing better leads to doing better. I've heard this around a lot. I think it's a myth, at least for me, it was. Knowing better leads to doing better. You all have preached about this. Why do New Year's resolutions, intentions, whatever you want to call them, fail? Why do they have such a high fail rate? They have such a high fail rate because people do a lot of work thinking about what they want to do, talking about what they want to do, intending, writing it down. But what people don't do is they don't change the way they behave. They don't change their habits. And without a change in habits, we don't actually change our lives. Knowing better actually doesn't lead to doing better. Diagnosing your problem doesn't guarantee that you're going to move toward a solution. I've been in the United Methodist Church a long time. We are great at diagnosing what's wrong. And I've been in so many conversations where people know exactly what it is that's wrong in churches, in committees, in general conference work. I mean, they know what's wrong. Knowing better, though, doesn't actually lead us to change anything. We can't learn our way out of burnout if you feel on the edge of that. We have to put those learnings into action, and it's new habits and disciplines that actually change our life. And I read the book Atomic Habits. I don't know how many of you have read that book. I read it a few years ago, and it really was such a simple reminder that if I want to change the way I operate, I have to change the way I operate. This was true for Moses. We see this really clearly in the Moses story. I mean, Jethro says to him at the end, if you do this is after he gives him the advice. If you do this and God directs you, then you'll be able to endure. If you do this and God directs you, then you'll be able to endure. This isn't a throwaway line. I think one of the keys to healthy living is not found in knowing or intending or diagnosing. Knowing better doesn't lead to doing better. Acting better leads to doing better. And so I had to take control of my habits, the way I was living my life. It's one of the reasons that I wrote the Methodist Book of Daily Prayer. I wanted it to be a simple thing that people could do. If you start a new habit every morning, 5 minutes connecting with God over the long haul, that will change you. It doesn't even take that long, actually. Acting better leads to doing better. And then just the last myth that I'm going to share with you before we invite you up is that boundaries are bad. It's a pretty simple myth. I think I believed this though. I'll just confess to you that boundaries are bad. I mean, uh, boundaries aren't bad. They're about protecting uh, a rhythm of healthy life that we've created for ourselves. And I just think that as a pastor, it's so easy to create boundaries and then just compromise them left and right for the sake of what we think we are supposed to be able to do for people. And we see this in the Moses story. It ends with boundaries, really. I mean, it ends by saying Moses chose capable persons from all Israel, set them as leaders over the people. As officers over groups of thousands, hundreds, fifties, tens, they acted as judges for the people at all times. They would refer the hard cases to Moses, but all the minor cases they decided for themselves. We see for the first time Moses figure out here's what I'm good at, here's what I can really do, here's what other people can do, and there's a distinction. Like boundaries just define like what I'm able to do for you, what others do for you, and maintaining those. But I can just imagine the first time someone came up to Moses and said, "Moses, I need you to decide my case personally." And Moses said, "No, I don't do that anymore. We have groups of, hundreds, fifties, tens." And the person said, "Moses, come on. You and I go way back, right? Like, I just need you personally to decide my case." And like the difficulty Moses must have had and saying, "No, I don't do that." But friends, boundaries are good in theory. They're much harder to practice though when we're in ministry. And I just know for me, I've had to get comfortable, especially if your church begins to grow, if your ministry begins to grow, as you take on more responsibility or more initiatives, like you just have to be okay not doing everything. Praying and discerning along with good people in your church, like this is what I'm able to do. And I think this is what others can do. And that it's okay that you don't do everything. Boundaries aren't bad. Boundaries just protect a healthy rhythm of life. And so I pray that you would use them for that purpose. I just share these with you because I know that the work you do is hard. I know the settings that you're in are often challenging, and I know that it's easy to wear ourselves out in it. And I just realized when I was away a few years ago, like I really want more than anything else, not just for me, but for all those people that I serve alongside, for other pastors and other church leaders. Like I want us to be able to create lives that we don't have to escape from. That week in, week out, day in, day out, we have healthy rhythms of doing the work that we do. And the reason I care so much about this is because I just really think that the future of the church in so many communities is dependent on leaders like you. And I want you to know that I'm praying for you, that I thank you for the work that you're doing. That work is not done in vain. That it deeply matters in the place where God has put you, and I'm grateful that you took time today to be in this space, and so I wanna invite the band up, and I just wanna end by, saying a prayer, over this water, and then pastors, from the gathering are gonna come forward, and in just a moment, friends, you're invited to come forward, and you can dip your hands in this water, and afterwards, uh, just find a pastor. We'd love to just pray for you. And if you want to share something that you want us to pray for, that's great. If you just want us to pray for you and don't need to share, then just come on forward and do that as well. But I want us to leave this time knowing that in this work that you do, you are not alone. And so as I pour this water out, I invite you to bow your heads and just pray with me.